So what's your perspective on meeting this deadline? With only 6 months to go, we're only at about 22%. Do you think we can hit 30%?
Yes, you know, it's not a sure thing, but going by antecedents, it's very possible. But going by what is actually on ground, it looks largely impossible. A few years back, after the National Broadband Plan was put in place, that was in 2012, to run between 2013 and 2018. The second year, that was 2014, had a 10% growth. But while 2015, 2016 slowed down to below 5%. So, you know, this is something that is actually possible. But if we look at what we actually have on the ground, it's unlikely to be met. There are many challenges in that sector. The infracos that were licensed, that were meant to start deploying across the 6 regions, they haven't been able to take off. There has been lots of talk about right of way, aligning the levies on that. There has been lots of issues with government taxes, with government agencies, stopping, shutting down masts and all that. Now you have different rates being applied across the states. So this has actually slowed down much of that momentum that we expect to pick up. Now also the spectrum refarming, which we had hoped would have been concluded by now, is still an ongoing process. The NCC has been trying to push that and has been selling the spectrum, but of course we haven't seen much growth in that area. And just talking about what's currently in the press about MTN's acquisition of Visaphone in 2016. Now, right now, they want to now transfer the license, which has the 800 megahertz, which augurs well for broadband deployment, 4G LTE. But then they are having some setback because the other guys in the sector are saying that, look, you are going to monopolize this sector, which is actually a real fact too. You know, so there are lots of issues that are halting this. Yeah. Sorry,
you mentioned MTN, and it's interesting to speak about that company. We know they've had their challenges recently, but they're clearly the market leaders when you look at broadband penetration and generally mobile telecom penetration in Nigeria. The point you made about MTN becoming a monopoly of some sort, how big a deal do you think that is? And do you think that the authorities are, because of that potential, going to really slow down the pace of growth of broadband penetration in the country?
Well, yes, unfortunately, it may slow that down. You know, spectrum is in high demand now. I mean, disruptive innovation has caused the need for spectrum. You know, the Internet of Things, the the mobile apps and all that, cloud computing. There are so many things that need this spectrum. So everybody wants it. Now, the issue is MTN is the leader in the voice sector. Now, granting them this same advantage would also make them a leader in the data sector. Now, it would do two things. Even though it would make them a leader there, and probably, you know, the rest may not be able to do much, but it would also deepen the broadband penetration that we all seek for. In fact, the 30% that they hope to achieve would likely be achieved this year. So, you know, it's a chicken and egg situation. It has its pros and it has its cons, but definitely they would be the market leader, and it could actually spiral into a monopoly if they have this. What the others are saying is, sit back, let's work this out, let us actually share it, and that would hamper this growth that we so much seek to. Now, for every growth for every 10% growth, you have about 1.3% addition in GDP. So the rewards cannot be overestimated, really.
Right. The rewards are clear, as you've just pointed out. And I was just going to get to the point about what Nigeria is losing by the slowdown of this process. But what I'm hearing from you today is that this is likely to be a long, drawn-out issue, the MTN acquisition of Visaphone, and then there just seems to be a lack of urgency in meeting these targets, given the impact that they can have on the economy. Despite that, we're not still seeing the urgency from the authorities that can make that happen.
Okay, sorry if I get what you just said. there are many hindrances, let me put it that way. There hasn't also been much support from the government. There should have been, there is no infrastructure fund dedicated to the ICT sector. So there are lots of hindrances to reaching where we intend to reach. The NCC recently said that we require about 120,000 kilometers of fiber across the country, and currently we have only about 38. Now to do the 82,000 extra to reach where we want to be would cost a capital outlay of about 400 billion, because it costs about 5 million naira to lay 1 kilometer of fiber. You know, so there's a lot that still needs to be done. But there are actually options. But we lack that depth. That is, the private sector is being very, very skeptical because of limited access to funds, and then the government, we should be doing a lot here, like how it's done in other countries. They are not putting their foot forward. Rather, they are leaving it to the private sector to take on. Now, you have the UK met their own target last year of 95% by the end of 2017, but we are still grappling with reaching 30% at the end of 2018. So it's an issue, yes.
It's a whole new economy that broadband penetration can really unleash. But my final thoughts today and question to you is, can we localize this broadband penetration issue? So beyond trying to address the issues that will impact those who are investing nationally, if we were to localize those investments and say some investors would like to focus on Lagos or Port Harcourt or Abuja, do you think that the environment is friendly enough and welcoming enough for those investments to come through?
Yes, it is, and I think that was what they intended to do by the structuring of the country to 6 regions. Like Main 1, sometime during the last government, enjoyed a serious rebate on right of way, which still remains one of the big issues in deploying fiber that will carry this broadband. And we can see what happened in Yaba. A lot has picked up. Yaba now has Facebook and Google. I mean, they're just like a hub. Now, assuming this can be replicated in different states of the country, of course, it would be very, very welcome. And that's why the National Broadband policy is meant to harmonize this payment so that everybody would have the equal opportunities and equal access. Now, you know that we have about 10 terabytes of bandwidth sitting on our shores, and the main issue, so that means we actually already, I mean, more than halfway there. So the issue is now to pull this thing into the hinterlands.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have most of them landing in Lagos. Right. You know, so that actually remains the main issue. So it's purely an infrastructural issue, and
right.
Support from the government through
yes.
PPPs. I mean, they can even come up with taxes or whatever it is.
Right. Anthony, we really have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much.